Hello, everyone. Welcome to this town hall update. I am James Milan, and I am with our town manager, Adam Chapdelaine. Hello, Adam.
Hey, James, good to see you.
Good to see you. Um, Before we talk about the lifting of the town's indoor mask mandate and the Arlington High School building, which is we're finally going to be getting some of the getting glimpses of, and the kids are going to have full experience of. Before we get to those, hey, surprise, there's a snowstorm on the way. Um, Thought it'd be a good opportunity to get, well, actually a little education from you and share how is it that snow emergencies, parking bans are declared, and um, how does the whole process basically work once you sense that this kind of thing is coming on? How do you make the decisions? Just walk us through the process, please.
Absolutely. And great day to have this conversation given the forecast that we have for tomorrow. I commented to my wife this morning that this winter is like Rocky in a Rocky movie where you think you got the winter up against the ropes and the winter's finished, but it's got one more punch left into it before
and
spring arrives.
and
So
those punches come consistently on Fridays, I've noticed,
apparently,
which I think works well for the town. Anyway, perhaps you'll explain that in as part of just again walking us through this process.
I will. So it's a great time to talk about it because we're going to go through this process today. We haven't made final decisions about tomorrow's storm quite yet, but we're going to do it this afternoon. And it starts with a cross-departmental or a cross-functional approach where I will call together the school superintendent, both deputy town managers, public works director, facilities director, library director, both chief of police and chief of fire. And we'll talk about the forecast and give a lot of thought to the ins and outs of what types of measures we need to put in place to adequately keep people safe and respond to the storm. And it's not always straightforward because storms start at different times. They're forecast to end at different times. Sometimes it's light snow. Sometimes it's very wet and heavy snow. And that all has an impact on the type of snow clearing operations that DPW will put forward, as well as having an impact on what cleanup might look like after the storm. So we think about, first and foremost, we try to help the superintendent think about whether or not there needs to be a school cancellation or a school delay. And ultimately, it's the school superintendent's decision, but we do our best to advise Dr. Holman and previously Dr. Bodie on what we think will be best given the forecast. So that's one big decision. Fortunately, this is a school vacation week. We don't have to have that complication this week. Then we start to think about a parking ban and whether or not we need to implement the parking ban. And when we think about that, we usually start to think about whether or not we're going to be able to just treat the snow away with the salt and sand mix, or if we need to put plows on the ground. And if we are going to put plows down and it's going to accumulate, let's say 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 inches, then we think about putting a parking ban in place because that's when we're really going to need to push back the snow and get up to the curb lines so that we can get a clear roadway, clear bike lanes, clear parking lanes. However, when we think about the parking ban, we want to do all we can to minimize impact on the businesses along Mass Ave and in the commercial corridors. So when we think about the time that we'll put a parking ban in place, we try our best. Sometimes the forecast doesn't allow, but we try our best not to put it in place at a time where we will sort of be de facto closing businesses if people aren't able to park. So that's a consideration we layer in. Another consideration we have is whether or not to keep town offices open. We try to think very strategically about whether or not people will be able to safely get into work and safely get home, right? We've had a couple instances this year where we've closed town offices and maybe it hasn't started snowing at the start of the day, but we would have been sending people home into pretty treacherous conditions. So that's another angle that we look at and give consideration to. And we've certainly been granted more flexibility in making those decisions with the comfort we all have with remote work now and being able to provide remote town services. And then I'd say the final thing we give a lot of thought to is whether or not trash will be delayed, depending on whether or not we think JRM's trucks can get in and around town, up and down the hills. And sometimes that depends on day of the week, right? Which route are they servicing? If they're servicing East Arlington in the early part of the week, it's probably going to be okay, even if the snow's coming down pretty good. If they're servicing the Heights at a later part of the week, maybe not so good, right? With the hills and the struggle to keep the hills safe when you're in the middle of a snowstorm. So that all those considerations come into play. We don't always get it right. The forecast isn't always right, but we do our best to balance all of those competing demands to create a combination of an opportunity for DPW to do their best to clear the roads in a safe and effective manner and keep Arlington residents safe during the storm. And again, we try our best to balance that. And then we communicate it, right? We communicate it via town notices, town website, and most importantly, via the town-wide phone call system, the Arlington Alert System. That's the best way to get information about snow removal operations and parking ban impacts in particular. So it's a good time to plug. If you aren't enrolled in the Arlington Alert System, go to the town website, sign up, and that's the way you make sure you get all the notices you need to receive about parking bans, trash impacts, and other impacts from snow.
Well, I knew it was a good idea to ask you that question because that is really an excellent explanation of just kind of who and what is involved in the decision-making process around something that literally affects absolutely everybody in town. So thanks for that. So speaking about decision-making, last week, the Arlington's Board of Health rescinded the indoor mask mandate in town. Shortly after the governor's announcement that he was going to let the statewide mask mandate expire at the end of February. So can you tell us, what does that mean for the town and schools to rescind the mandate?
So I think, it was a very tough decision, given that, I don't think anybody in Arlington government is saying the pandemic is over, right? This is still a challenging virus and it still could very much begin to surge again. But with the governor announcing that the school mask mandate would be lifted as of February 28th and starting to see other communities lift their indoor mask mandates in public spaces, the Health and Human Services staff put together what I found to be a really comprehensive analysis of the data around Arlington's vaccination rates, Arlington's positivity rates, and the more regional look at the MWRA wastewater data for the prevalence of the virus in the region as a whole. And when analyzing that data and providing it to the Board of Health, we see that Arlington has a comparatively higher vaccination rate than most of the region. Our positivity rate has dramatically dropped from the peak just a month ago, or even a little less than a month ago. And the presence of the virus in the wastewater data that the MWRA tests has absolutely plummeted to levels going now all the way back to last July when we were in a very stable position. So collectively, it gave the staff the confidence, the HHS staff the confidence to recommend to the Board of Health that stepping away from the mask mandate, removing the indoor mask mandate now was the appropriate measure. And I think that the data supports that argument, but I think it's important to say a few other things. One, if you want to wear a mask, you are absolutely encouraged to and should feel safe wearing a mask, because some people will do that and should very well do that. I'll probably still do that myself in many settings. Additionally, I think rolling off the mandate as things get better gives us a better position to roll something back on if the virus starts to surge again, right? And I'm not making that up. I've read a lot from both medical experts as well as social scientists arguing that to create these effective mitigation measures, you have to figure out when to dial back as appropriate so that you can dial up when appropriate. So I think collectively, our HHS team and the Board of Health has done a very good job thinking through all of this and ultimately deciding for now, based on the data, to roll back the mask mandate. But I do want to reiterate, we're telling town staff, anybody who wants to wear a mask in town hall absolutely can do so free of harassment or ribbing or whatever it might be from their fellow workers. And I would hope people in town widely accept that, take that same approach, that if someone wants to wear a mask, that is good on them. It's their right, and it's the way they're keeping themselves safe. And if somebody's not wearing a mask, that's also okay. And at this point, it's not mandated, it's their decision.
And in this town, I'm confident that that will be broadly respected. And I have to say, you were just talking about the dialing up and dialing back. It's got to be, aside from the thoughtful policy behind, the thoughtful analysis behind this policy change, I got to say, it's just got to feel good to you and to the Board of Health, I would imagine, to actually, give good news to folks in terms of just kind of saying, hey, let's let us acquire that kind of normalcy or hints of that normalcy that we are all still yearning for. So, some good news.
Yeah.
And
2 weeks from yesterday is the 2-year anniversary of the first positive COVID case in Arlington. So we want the good news. We definitely want the good news.
Well, that's a milestone of a sobering sort. Let's talk about a different kind of milestone now. And that is what's happening at Arlington High School. So tell us about the milestone for Arlington High and what it means. Frankly, I got to tell you, I'm excited.
I'm excited.
Have kids in the school.
And this is a milestone, and I almost can't believe it, right? Because so many of us have been part of this from the very, genesis of even talking about this as potential and applying to the MSBA. But officially next week, we're going to cut the ribbon on phase 1, the STEAM wing of the new high school, and be able to start to welcome students. And we're going to do a safe ribbon cutting exercise or event outside, and then allow students to be welcomed into the building next Monday. And for those who haven't, been following the project closely, this STEAM wing, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, it's going to have 16 classrooms, 17 science labs, 5 visual arts studios, 3 maker spaces, a 120-seat discourse lab, numerous sustainability features, all electric heating and cooling, 2 4-story light wells, which are just absolutely gorgeous. It's going to be a really exciting building for students to access, and then eventually the community will have a chance to see it. In April, we'll be able to open the performing arts wing, which is going to have band and chorus rooms, practice rooms, and a digital production lab. And the 826-seat auditorium with a 2,100 square foot stage, green room, and fly loft is going to open in April. And again, it's going to be just a tremendous asset to students and the town. And overall, we are on time, we are on budget, and we're building an incredibly sustainable building. And I think it's something for the whole community to be proud of.
Well, excellent command of the details there, Mr. Chapdelaine. Nicely done with that, but also, again, just exciting and really nice to just imagine, school buildings get rebuilt, every 50, 75, maybe even longer. So, once in a lifetime for most of us. And so this really is a singular moment. Thanks for describing what will be happening over the next weeks and months there. And we all look forward to enjoying this new treasure in town. All right. Anything, lots of good news today. Anything that we missed?
No, just a reiteration, stay safe tomorrow in the snow. We'll be doing our best to keep the roads clear, but stay safe, and looking forward to the ribbon cutting next week.
Absolutely. And we edge ever closer to spring. We look forward to talking to you in a couple of weeks in the month of March, and wish you a healthy and safe tomorrow snowstorm and on from there.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks. I have been speaking with our town manager, Adam Chapdelaine, for this town hall update. I'm James Milan. We have appreciated Adam's time and his explanations of so much of what's going on in and around Town Hall today, and we appreciate you being here for it as well. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm James Milan. See you next time.